Purdue enters the season with not one, but two potential preseason All-Americans. This could be the team that gets Matt Painter his well-deserved national championship.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shader, joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you so much for making us your first listener watch to get your college basketball content this Wednesday, and a reminder that you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us and all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord community. If you're not in there, man, you are missing out. That link's in the show notes. It's absolutely free to join. Coming up today, it is our 7th team preview of the offseason. We're getting things rolling, and we got a lot more to do. And next week, we will start our conference previews, one a week, and 9 weeks left till the season tips. Hard to believe it. We've already done UConn, Indiana, Marquette, Illinois, Bama, St. John's, and today we preview the Purdue Boilermakers, who could very well be your preseason AP #1 team. If you want to catch any of those other episodes, there's a YouTube playlist with all of them. Joining me to help discuss the Boilermakers is our brand new host of Locked On Boilermakers, Mr. Nick. Arvin, Nick, it's great to have you, brother. Welcome to the network. So glad you're here.
Thank you, Isaac. I'm super excited to be on the show. Thank you for having me. I'm hyped to talk all our Boilermakers. We got football season coming up this next week, but as you know, Purdue is a basketball school. We have big, exciting things coming this year for the Boilermakers, so I'm excited to talk about it today.
Heck yeah, man. It's so good to have you in. Congrats on the job. We're glad you're here. We're going to talk storylines. We're going to talk the returning three-headed monster. Is this the team that gets Matt Painter that long-awaited natty? We're going to talk personnel, including starting five, maybe breakout candidates. We'll take a look at the non-con, as well as make record and postseason predictions, plus a floor and ceiling for Purdue. Going to be a great show. Nick, last season, the Boilermakers 24-12, 13-7 in Big Ten play, coming off of that national runner-up season. They lost, oddly, 5 of the final 7 in the regular season after starting Big Ten play 11-2, finished tied for 4th in the Big Ten, lost in the Big Ten quarterfinals to Michigan, and then lost in the Sweet 16 to eventual national runner-up, the Houston Cougars, by just 2 points. Man, that was a great, great game there in the NCAA tournament. And Nick, here's where I want to start with this thing. There is only one returning consensus first-team All-American in all of college basketball, and he's a Purdue Boilermaker. His name's Braden Smith. What do people need to know about this dude if they've somehow been sleeping under a rock and missing on him?
Okay, Isaac. So Rick Pitino actually put out just about a week ago that the point guard position is dead in college basketball.
What is he doing?
Right. And I say, look at Braden Smith and tell me that's accurate, because Braden Smith is on pace to beat out Hurley for the all-time assist leading record in the NCAA. Last year, he averaged 8.7 assists. If he's healthy, can play all throughout the year, make it deep in the postseason. He needs to average about 8 assists a game. And then he's the all-time leading assist record leader in the NCAA. He'll definitely get the Big Ten record. Early in the season, the holder of that is Cassius Winston over at Michigan State from a few years back. But a lot to be excited about for Braden Smith for Braden Smith's year this year. He had a great year last year. You bring in a couple guys via the portal. You bring in a couple new recruits, a couple guys for Braden Smith to facilitate to. And that really is where Braden Smith is the best. He has a great shot. He's able to get it done anywhere on the court from a scoring perspective. But when you think about the playmaking ability that he brings to this Purdue team, that's why they're the preseason favorite. That's why they're going to be so good. And there's a reason why Braden Smith is the National Player of the Year favorite. And we'll talk about that more here later. But when you think about who Braden Smith is, what he is, he's Purdue to a fault. He's the perfect Matt Painter guard. And it's the reason why Purdue is going to be so dang good this year.
I love it. It's funny. Literally 2 days ago on Monday's show, Andy and I did our St. John's preview, and we talked about that Patino quote, and I used Braden Smith as an example of, what are you talking about, Coach Patino? So I love that you had no idea about that, and you brought it full circle. Thank you, Mr. Nick. You know what you're doing. Now, what's so fun to me is I remember 3 years ago, in come these unheralded freshman backcourt mates of Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer, and it was like, I don't know, who are these dudes coming out of nowhere, unheralded? And I know COVID had a lot to do with the weird ranking, but Nick, as somebody that's followed this team for so long, what has the journey of the career of these two young men been like? And is it weird for you to recognize that the culmination, is it like Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer are seniors in college? That blows my mind.
It is insane when you think about when Fletcher Loyer, when Braden Smith come into Purdue, that team was primarily a Zach Edey-led team. When you think about what Purdue was, you thought Zach Edey at that time. So a guy like Fletcher Loyer, a guy like Braden Smith didn't necessarily get the notoriety that they deserved because Zach Edey was the face of that team. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Zach Edey was a great player at Purdue. But when you think about what this team was last year without Zach Edey, those guys really made a name for themselves as the face of this program, as the face of what Matt Painter wants to do. So we see kind of a breakout season for both those guys last year, especially Braden Smith, whose stats so much better from a production standpoint, had a good year his freshman and sophomore year, but last year really broke out. But when you think about those two guys, when you think about who they are, what they're going to be going into this senior year, I think about two guys that play ball hard. Those are two guys that you don't have to get them to work. You don't have to motivate them. There's nothing that you can do to persuade those two guys to not give it their all every single game, every single practice. And that's what's made them so good at Purdue. That's what's made them so good just being guards in basketball. They're two of the best guards in basketball. And when we look at it at the end of this year, I think that there's a good chance that we can say these two guards made up the best backcourt in Purdue history.
Ooh, Nick, I like that take, man. And I have not stopped to even begin to think about that or research that or process that. But my gut reaction is there's got to be legitimacy to that, man. I love that point. Now, what's crazy is we talk about Fletcher Loyer, who had 13.8 a game last year, Braden Smith, 15.8. And while there's all this understandable and legitimate Braden Smith love as preseason National Player of the Year front runner, we have yet to even discuss another guy who was an All-American honorable mention last year, who was just one, Nick, of 20 players in the entire country, all 360 plus teams in Division I, to score 20 or more points a game. And that's our guy, TKR, Trey Kaufman-Renn. Are we sleeping on the impact that this dude is going to have because of all the Braden Smith love?
So we are absolutely sleeping on TKR, and let me tell you why. So we see he averaged 20.1 points a game last year, but that 20 points is honestly, it doesn't even show what his value was last year. Because when you think about Purdue, they were a little bit short in the front court. They didn't have a high quality center like we saw in Zach Edey. Daniel Jacobson, the center, 7'4" guy, breaks his leg like 2 games into the year. So Purdue was struggling looking for depth at that center spot last year, and TKR had to plug into the center spot. He was able to average 20 points as a center when he's used to playing that 4 spot against high quality bigs in the Big Ten. And when you think about the additions that Purdue brings in this year, whether that's an Oscar Cluff coming in from South Dakota State, a big center, or even just Daniel Jacobson getting healthy again this year, you have the availability to move TKR over to the 4, somewhere where he's not necessarily more familiar with, but I feel like his skill set is better tuned for the 4 spot. And I think that we'll see a big jump in production for him this year. And that's insane to say when this is a guy that averaged 20 points last year. He was one of the best bigs in college basketball, and we haven't even scraped the surface of what TKR can be. So I'm all for the Braden Smith hype. I think that Braden Smith has the perfect opportunity to have the year of his life, to have a career year in his senior year at Purdue, but don't sleep on TKR. Since 2018, the National Player of the Year award has only gone exclusively to big men, whether that be at the 4 spot, the 5 spot. We haven't seen a guard win it since Jalen Brunson at Villanova in 2018. So we see what the voters like. We see kind of what the blueprint is for an award winner. And when you think about that blueprint, TKR fits it to a key. He's the perfect guy for that award. I'm not saying count Braden Smith out.
Sure.
He's a dog, but TKR needs more recognition.
And hopefully they won't split votes. I always hate that for teammates when
Yeah.
it's like people are divided on that. It's like, what's making Purdue cook? Is it TKR? Is it Braden? So hopefully that doesn't happen. Now, Nick, before we move on to more big picture personnel conversations, I want to zoom out. And yes, we will make postseason predictions later on in the show. But I don't know about you. For me, I wondered if in the post Zach Edey era, like had the window closed for this Purdue championship moment, right? Like missing out on beating UConn in the national championship game, like was that the end of the opportunity? And it was a solid but unremarkable last year, I think is probably fair to say. But man, it really seems like this season is a return right back to the top. So here's my question to you, Nick. Is this Purdue team the one that not only gets Matt Painter his much-deserved, well-deserved national championship? It's not a matter of if, but when to me, but also helps break the 2.5-decade-old Big Ten title drought. Is that going to happen this year, Nick?
This is the team, Isaac. And I've been talking about it on my show, and I have gotten a little bit of hate for saying this, but if not now, then when? This is the best team that Matt Painter has ever had going into the season. Just from a pure talent perspective, it's the most complete team that he's ever had. I'm not saying that Matt Painter isn't an amazing coach, because he is. He's proven it year after year after year as a talent developer, as a recruiter, as a motivator. He's one of the best head coaches in the nation. And the only thing that he needs to boost that resume is that national championship. And as soon as he wins that, he goes up with a Pitino. He goes up with a Danny Hurley. He's in those conversations because he has the national championship to back up the success that he's had at Purdue. I think that this year he gets it done. I think this is the team. I think this roster is perfectly complete. It's a perfect team that when you bring it to March, it has the depth to fight through all those games. It has the potential to kind of run any team out of the building when you talk about the pure offense that this team's going to bring with a Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, TKR combination. This team is the team that gets Purdue over the hump, and this is the team that gets Purdue their first national championship.
Ooh, baby. Well, look, we know of this big three. We've been talking about them, but who else is going to help Purdue in that pursuit of getting right back to that Final Four and cutting down the nets on the final Monday night of the season? Nick's going to unpack that for us coming up in just a second. Hey, right after I tell you about Monarch Money, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, whether it's properties, investments. And when you don't have that full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And nobody wants to do that. You want to get everything you can. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop, your phone, whatever device. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see the clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. My wife and I, we spend a lot of time making sure our finances are up to date and in good shape. And Monarch makes it simple for us to review our finances together. We can both see our budgets, our goals, and our spending activity all wrapped up in one place. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. You guys, the NFL season is almost here. It's crazy to believe that it is upon us. And maybe you want to make some predictions before the season begins. Maybe you want to call your MVP. Maybe you want to eye a long shot division winner. Maybe you're ready to go ahead and crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off. This is your moment to do so. Take a flyer on the MVP race. Maybe you want to go with Saquon Barkley. Let's get out of the quarterbacks. Why not go wild with it? Maybe you want to crown your champ. Maybe it's those Eagles who are tied for the best odds along with the Bills and the Ravens. Maybe you want to pick all 8 division winners and parlay that all together. That's a cool one. Run with it. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. FanDuel, play your game. As Nick and I come back together to talk Purdue's personnel, we got an important request of you from both Nick and I and the whole Locked On network, because Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also scan the QR code that's on screen if you're watching on YouTube, and you can find the link in the show notes. Y'all, thank you so much for helping us out. All right, Nick, let us get into talking about the personnel of Purdue. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the big three already, the returners of TKR, Braden Smith, and Fletcher Loyer. You mentioned Daniel Jacobson. There's a couple other guys back as well. Could you kind of help fill us in for those who are maybe forgetting about it? Who else is coming back to this team for Matt Painter?
Yeah, absolutely. So, two guys I do want to cover. We saw at times last year, didn't get a ton of minutes, but definitely showed great potential as great point of attack defenders from the guard position. And that's a Jakari Harris and a CJ Cox. We'll see those guys where there is a little bit of speculation about who's going to fill that 3 spot this year for Purdue, whether Fletcher Loyer moves over to the 3 and one of CJ Cox, or a Jakari Harris plugs into that 2 spot. That's something that we'll have to see. But when I think about a CJ Cox, when I think about a Jakari Harris, I think about a great defender. I think about 2 guys that can play make. I think about 2 guys that you can stick on any guard in the country, and they're going to limit that production. And that's something that's going to be so valuable for a Matt Painter team this year, that is going to be so great offensively. When you have 2 guards, one can come off the bench, one can start. But no matter how you play it, those 2 guards are going to be able to guard. They're going to be great defenders, and they're going to be able to fill in for a Matt Painter team that's definitely going to need some defense. When you think about what this team's going to be, it's going to be the number 1 offense in the nation. That's just what it's going to be. But the only question mark is, do we have enough defenders? And when I look at CJ Cox, when I look at Jakari Harris, I think we do. We talked a little bit about the front court here in our earlier segment, and one guy that I want to touch on is Daniel Jacobson. You brought him up last year. Didn't really get to play. 7'4", broke his leg in the second game of the year. But that's a guy that is going to get some real minutes this year. When you think about a 7'4" guy, you think about, hey, maybe a Zach Edey. Obviously, Daniel Jacobson has a bit of a smaller frame, more of a, not as built as Edey was, but maybe just as good of a rim protector. I have seen so much Zach Edey. I've seen how excellent he was on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm not saying we should necessarily make that comparison yet, because Daniel Jacobson isn't there offensively for what Zach Edey was. But when you think about defensively, when you think about, hey, we saw Daniel Jacobson this year in the FIBA U19 World Cup playing for America, didn't get a whole lot of opportunities on the offensive side of the ball, but we saw him block some shots. We saw him occupy that paint, and that's going to be something that Purdue really needs this year. A guy that can protect the rim, can stop other bigs from getting in the paint and scoring at will. And that's something that Daniel Jacobson's going to bring to this team this year. That's something that Purdue and Matt Painter have been really excited about, seeing his kind of progression this offseason, seeing him form into the guy that they want him to be. I know you said talk about some guys that are on the team last year, but there's a guy that wasn't on the team last year that I do want to cover in this segment. And that's Oscar Cluff. That's going to be a guy that we're going to hear a lot of this year. He comes over from South Dakota State via the transfer portal this offseason. And when you think about Purdue this season, you're going to think about Daniel Jacobson. You're going to think about Oscar Cluff, because you can talk, hey, Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, TKR. These are going to be notable guys that are going to make a direct impact on the game. But when you think about the ability to rotate a big like Oscar Cluff, that heavy set guy who can set picks at will, strong as an ox, Isaac. This dude is not getting moved when he sets a pick. When you think about his presence inside the paint, his ability to get to the rim and be a force on the inside, and then the ability to rotate a guy like that in with Daniel Jacobson, that's a great front court that is honestly going kind of unnoticed, because when people think Purdue, they think about the big three. But this front court is going to be so deadly this year, and it gives TKR the opportunity to be a great offensive forward. It gives them the opportunity to score at the 4 spot and not have to worry about defending as much against those big centers in the Big Ten, because basketball, when you think about, especially at the big spot, when you think about basketball, a lot of production goes onto the defensive side. If you're having to play defense so much in a game, if you're having to spend so much energy on defense, you're not going to be as effective scoring the ball. And that's just how it is. TKR has that luxury with a guy like Oscar Cluff, with a guy like Daniel Jacobson coming in this year. So Purdue's very well built. They're very well rounded. And this is a team that has a lot of pieces. Another guy I wanted to cover is Jack Benter. We saw he got the red shirt last year. Not a whole lot of people are talking about Jack Benter, but that's a sneaky guy who may be able to get some time in at the 3 this year. We've seen he's been guarding TKR throughout the summer. And when you talk about the phrase iron sharpens iron, 2 guys compete against each other and make each other better. When you think about Jack Benter guarding a guy like TKR, who are you going to see in Big Ten play that is a better offensive forward than TKR? Jack Benter has really developed as a defensive forward, and I think that we'll see some time from him this year.
Look, Nick, you mentioned that FIBA U19 and Daniel Jacobson, but there's another dude that went off, absolutely went off at this FIBA U19, and he's somebody a lot of people might not have heard about if they haven't been entrenched in paying attention this summer, but he is coming over to Purdue. And this dude, I got to tell you, Nick, I am very excited after what we've heard and seen from him. Tell us a little bit about Omer Meyer.
Yeah, so I didn't want to hit on him quite yet. I wanted to give you
the push pause, and we'll wait. Okay. Then we can bring it up later because man, like he's going to be doing stuff anyway. Very excited. You know, you talked about Jakari Harris, CJ Cox. It's cool as we think about the senior year for Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith, and hearing some of these other guards coming in who might be able to step into those roles, even forecasting ahead to 26-27 and all that replacement there for Coach Painter. Nick, where I want to go next is to ask you, obviously, I think it's pretty safe to assume the big 3 are locked into starting roles, right? Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer in the backcourt, TKR in the front, but that leaves the 5, and then as you said, either the 2 or the 3, depending on what Fletcher Loyer does. Is it CJ Cox? Is it Jakari Harris? Is it Omer Meyer, who we'll talk more about as that other backcourt position? And is it Oscar Cluff, or maybe is it Daniel Jacobson filling out that 5? How do you see the starting lineup playing out?
Okay, so at the 1 is Braden Smith, and that's not arguable. That's what it is. Braden Smith has had his starting spot. Matt Painter can say earned, not given, but Braden Smith has had that starting spot earned for multiple years. So no debate about that. No debate at the 4 spot. It's going to be TKR. For just the sake of easiness, we'll throw Fletcher Loyer in, whether that's at the 2 or the 3.
Sure.
From the center spot, I think that Oscar Cluff is the guy at center. I think that Oscar Cluff is the more ready candidate for that position. He's really been impressing the staff during the summer. He's really been impressing as a playmaker, especially his chemistry with Fletcher Loyer off the handoff has been incredible. So Oscar Cluff, I would say right now is probably set to be the starting center. And that brings us to the most up in the air position. So either the 2 or the 3. Jack Benter has opportunities to fit in, but I don't think that he's ready enough yet. So that brings us up to 3 guys you talked about: Omer Meyer, Jakari Harris, and a CJ Cox. When I think about that position, I think about Matt Painter wants a guy at that 3 that's going to be ready to play now, is going to be ready to play meaningful minutes and really step in and be beneficial for the team. I think that CJ Cox, if you're talking about a 2, if you want to move Fletcher Loyer over to the 2, I think that CJ Cox is the guy to fit into that starting lineup. I think that as a point of attack defender, being able to keep guards out of the paint, keep them from driving and opening up things for them to play make, CJ Cox is that guy. He's able to be a great number 2 alongside Braden Smith in that backcourt. So if Matt Painter elects to move Fletcher Loyer over to the 3, I think CJ Cox. we talk about Omer Meyer. We talk about how great he is, and we'll cover him here in our next segment. But I think Omer Meyer will be best utilized as a spark off the bench. I think that he gives you something so unique for a Big Ten lineup where he can come in off the bench and give you instant 15 points, bang down 5 threes, and increase that Purdue lead exponentially. I think that that's the perfect role for him right now. But when we talk about that 3 spot, if Matt Painter elects to move Fletcher or keep Fletcher at the 2, I think that Ja'Cory Harris will plug into the starting lineup at the 3. I think that he's bigger than CJ Cox. I think he has the better frame to be a starting 3 in the Big Ten. I think that he would be just a little bit better when you talk about as a defender, guarding up against some of those lengthy wings that the Big Ten has to offer. I think Ja'Cory Harris is the guy at the 3. So either CJ Cox, if Fletcher moves over to the 3, if Fletcher stays at the 2, I think it'll be Ja'Cory Harris.
And here's the good news in all of that you just said, Nick. Regardless of the answer, I love your analysis. I'm so grateful for that. Matt Painter has depth. He's got the capability to go a multitude of different ways depending on needs, team, health, all of that stuff. And there's great rotation beyond that. Going to be really maybe difficult. I was going to say easy, but maybe difficult to form up that 8, maybe 9-man rotation that you're looking for in college basketball because there's so much talent and capability on this team, and they're going to have to weed that down as we go. Last thing I want to ask you, Nick, before we move on to talking about the non-con schedule and making some predictions there. Give me a breakout player for this team. Obviously, we know the big 3. If you had to go with somebody beyond that or who, like, this will be the next household name from Purdue this season, who's that going to be?
I've been holding it from you, Isaac, and now's the time. Our guy, Omer Meyer, has been stunning all summer long. He plugs in. So when you talk about household name from Purdue, you think about a 3-year, 4-year player, and that's not what Meyer's going to be. He's going to be a lottery draft pick in the 2026 draft. We saw his teammate in Israel, Ben Seraph, elect to go ahead and jump in to the lottery this year, one of the Nets' 5 first-round draft picks. And I would argue that Meyer was right up with him in terms of where they're at as a player. I think that Meyer would have been a late first-round draft pick this year if he elected to take that route. But I think 1 year under the best guard developer in the nation, in Matt Painter, Omer Meyer is going to have a breakout season. He's going to stun people in West Lafayette, all over the nation, and he's going to be a lottery pick this year.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Let's hit, man. And if that happens, this team, I mean, it's just going to be absurd. All right. So, Nick, that makes me ask the question, is anyone going to challenge Purdue in the Big Ten and maybe around the country this season? What is the floor? What's the ceiling for this team? We'll wrap the show talking about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the biz. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer, man. That's phenomenal. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Again, that's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Nick, let's move into talking about the schedule here some for Purdue. And I know we got to move a little bit quick here because we're running short on time. So I'll just mention the big games, the games that matter, starting with an exhibition game on Friday, October 24th, down at Rupp Arena at Kentucky. I love this. I love that we're getting so much of this. Next big game will be Thursday, November 13th at Alabama. Thursday, November 20th against Memphis in the first game of Baha Mar. The next day, Friday, the 21st, by the way, this is the week prior to Thanksgiving, folks. It will either be Texas Tech or Wake Forest in the second game of Baha Mar. Fingers crossed for Texas Tech because I want to see that matchup in a big way. And then 3 other big-time matchups in non-con. We love our Saturdays in December, and we're getting it here. Saturday, December 6th versus Iowa State. the next Saturday against Marquette, and the next Saturday, the 20th, against Auburn in Indianapolis, the Indy Classic. Nick, what do you make of, in particular, these big-time non-con games and the exhibition game down in Lexington?
So tough out of conference. We need to talk about that first. And when you think about Purdue fans, I've been a big spokesperson for the undefeated talk needs to stop for Purdue fans, because as good as this team is going to be, going undefeated is not something that is common, not something that, honestly, for me, for my anxiety, I even want, because the stress of keeping an undefeated season would be too much for me. But when you look at that out of conference games, I think that we need to circle some of those games, and specifically circle some of the games against teams in Alabama. When we think about a Nate Oates team, Nate Oates teams are always so good. They're going to have one of the best backcourts in the nation, just like Purdue. They're going to be battling it up. And then against Auburn, that's another huge game against a great coach team with Bruce Pearl over there in Auburn, Alabama. They have one of the most complete teams year after year after year, and that's why they're consistently competitive in March. So I think if you look at those two games, obviously Texas Tech, that would be awesome. But those are the two games that I want to look out. I think that Purdue may drop one of those against, whether that's in Auburn, whether that's in Alabama. But going back to your point, the exhibition against Kentucky is going to be huge for evaluating where this team is going into the start of the season. I'm huge on Mark Pope and what he's doing over there in Kentucky. I'm excited to see what he brings. I think that that'll be a great matchup to not just evaluate Purdue, but evaluate both those teams. So I'm so happy that we got exhibitions, high quality exhibitions back on the schedule. And I'm excited for Purdue's out of conference. Big games all throughout the slate going into December. I'm excited for it, Isaac.
And as we sit here on Wednesday, August 27th, we are less than 2 months away from that exhibition game. It is coming, baby. Lace your shoes, buckle up. Here we go. Nick, obviously we don't have the full Big Ten schedule yet. The home games, though, are Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Penn State, and then a Pacific Northwest trip to Oregon and Washington. That means the home games against Oregon and Washington. The away-only games are Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, Ohio State, Rutgers, and the SoCal teams, UCLA and USC. And the teams that Purdue will play twice, obviously Indiana and Iowa and Wisconsin. Nick, that said, I want you to project for me where Purdue will finish in the Big Ten standings, and I want you to give me a non-con and conference and total record that these Boilermakers are going to finish with.
Great. Okay, Isaac. So obviously, when you talk about the Big Ten, when you talk about this conference, I easily think that Purdue is going to be the best team in the conference. I don't think that there's much debate about that, but it's a brutal schedule. It's a brutal schedule every year, and you're kind of going to lose one or two on the road, whether that team's better than you or not. You have off nights. You have teams that play above what they are. I'm really a fan of what Dusty May's got over in Ann Arbor in Michigan. I think that team will be pretty solid this year. I think that they'll be competitive. I don't know if that's the team that beats Purdue in the Big Ten, but I'll tell you who it's not. It's that team down the road in Bloomington. Indiana doesn't have it together.
Shots fired, Nick. Shots fired.
That team isn't going anywhere. They missed March Madness last year. They may make it this year, but they're not making it past the first weekend. So I don't think Indiana has a chance against Purdue this year. I'd say that Purdue probably loses one game. I'll say 2 games in out of conference. 2 games in out of conference. 2 games in the Big Ten for 4 losses on the year.
I love it. And where would you have them finishing in the Big Ten standings? It sounds like number 1, but I just want to make sure that's where you're at.
Oh, yeah. Number 1. Number 1.
I'm with you. I love you. The Big Ten always has great contenders. I'll just mention a couple other that I'm intrigued by. Illinois, the whole Eastern Bloc they got going on. Really curious to see if they can replicate the magic they had last year with Kasparas Yakachonis coming in. Obviously, both the Visic brothers are there now. Paige Stojakovic's son, Andre, comes in. Should be some good stuff. Michigan State, obviously always tough. A lot of people think UCLA is going to be back a little bit this year. All of that said, I'm going to go – Nick's like, nah, I don't think so. I'm going to go 17-3 in conference play. Still more than enough to wrap up the 1 seed for the Big Ten. And I'm going to go the same non-con record as you, Nick, just because there's enough difficult games here, including on the road at Alabama, Iowa State is still very, very tough despite losing a couple guys last year. If it is Texas Tech, so a lot of these tough games, Shaka Smart and Marquette, always difficult. So give me 9-2, same record you had there. And I'm going to go one game worse overall than you, 26-5, Nick. But I think we're right there in that same neighborhood, 27-4 for you, 26-5 for me. And in this day and age where teams are playing more difficult schedules, that's a number one seed running away is what we're talking about there, folks. So don't hear that as a bad thing. Nick, if you would, give me what you see as a floor for Purdue and give me what you see as a ceiling for this team.
So when I think about a floor, I think about where Purdue was last year. I think about that game against Houston, a great coached team with Kelvin Sampson over there at Houston, and Houston's going to be just as good this year. So don't say I'm discrediting what Houston's going to be this year. But when I think about a floor, I think anything less than a Sweet 16 is unacceptable. Honestly, I would say anything less than an Elite 8 this year is unacceptable. When you think about the quality of this team, I think the ceiling is obviously a national championship. I think if you can win a national championship, I think there's a realm where Purdue loses like 2 games on the year and can win a national championship. That's how good this team is this year. I'd say floor is losing in the Elite 8, the ceiling national championship, 2 losses on the year.
So that said, Nick, if this team, let's say this team loses in the first round, the first weekend, be it the first or second round, would you consider that a disappointing season?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't care if they go undefeated throughout the year. If they can't get it done in March, then that's what we've been talking about. That just proves all the Matt Painter haters kind of true. I've been one of Matt Painter's biggest advocates, but you have to prove that you can get it done in March. And this is going to be his year.
I said it earlier on this show, right? 2 days ago, Andy and I talked about St. John's. They lost 4 regular season games last year by a combined total of 7. But what do we remember? The fact that RJ Lewis sat there on the bench while they lost to Arkansas in the second round of the NCAA tournament, just to prove your point as being correct. So, Nick, I'm right with you. Ceiling is a national championship for this team. My projection is that they are going to be a 1 seed and number 1 overall. I think the Big Ten isn't quite as strong as the Big 12. So I think Houston gets dinged up a little more, and Houston's your number 2 overall. These teams are going to be 1 and 2 preseason, right? Like that's a guarantee in some order. I really hope they both get to the national championship. Why? That would be the last 2 runners up squaring off, one of them guaranteed to get it. And I hope the Boilermakers faithful aren't disappointed and upset here. I'm going to have Houston getting redemption from last year in their loss to Florida, with Houston beating Purdue in an epic national championship. Nick, I think you probably think I'm wrong. Give it to me.
Isaac, I hate to say it, but Matt Painter's not losing in the national championship again. He faced UConn. That UConn team was deadly. He's not losing again. Get Matt Painter to the national championship, and he's bringing it home.
I love it, man. Great stuff, Nick. It's so good to be together for your first time, your rookie appearance here on Locked On College Basketball, man. Great stuff. Great insight. The Boilermaker fan base is very fortunate to have you hosting their show. Folks, if you haven't already subscribed to Locked On Boilermakers, make sure you do that everywhere you can find it. Follow Nick on Twitter at Nick Arvin, Arvin Sports. Great stuff and a great follow. Nick, it's so great to have you as part of the network, man. Welcome. Great to have you. Gang, if you haven't subscribed to Locked On College Basketball on video and audio, make sure you do that now so you don't miss a single second of the lead up to the season. It's going to be electric. If you haven't joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord, that link is in the show notes. Absolutely free to join. It's a great community of college basketball sickos. We'd love to see you in there. As always, and appropriately today, apologies to the Loyer family. Let's go Wild Pokes. Cheers to the McBruins, and until tomorrow. Peace.